Today, what exactly is Pentecost, and more importantly, why is it significant? Well, this is your Monday morning moment where our goal each week is to provide you with a strong, positive message of faith designed to help you get your week off to a great start. And you know what, everybody? I've given you a tough one this morning. It's Pentecost, and there are a lot of important days on the Christian calendar: Christmas, Easter, Ash Wednesday, things like that. Pentecost is another pretty important day, but most of us, myself included, I didn't know much about what Pentecost was about until recently. So, did you know that in the time of Christ, there was a Jewish festival held each year called the Feast of Pentecost? And it was held 50 days after Passover. And it was a celebration of the harvest. I just think they really were looking for a reason to party, maybe. But anyway, that's what Pentecost was. Well, after the resurrection, Jesus appeared for 40 days, as most of us, we all know this, okay? He was around for 40 days. Lots of people saw him, and especially the disciples. But before he ascended on the 40th day, he said to his disciples, now look, I want you guys to hang here in Jerusalem, and I want you to lay low, I want you to pray, but on the 10th day, be ready. Well, what was he asking them to be ready for? Your first gold nugget, Acts chapter 2, verses 1 through 4. You ready for this? When the day of Pentecost came, they, being the disciples, were all together in one place. Suddenly a sound like a blowing of a violent wind came from heaven and filled the whole house where they were sitting. They saw what seemed to be tongues of fire that separated and came to rest on each of them. All of them were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other languages as the Spirit enabled them. Well, right there is the significance of Pentecost, because on that Pentecost, the disciples were filled with the Holy Spirit. Now, why is that a big deal? Well, it's a big deal because, the Holy Spirit has been around since the very beginning. So consider your second gold nugget, Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 and 2. God created the heavens and the earth. We all know that, right? Verse 2. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. So the Holy Spirit is referenced in the very beginning, but it wasn't until Pentecost that the Holy Spirit came upon a lot of people. Up until that point, God had not given the Holy Spirit to many people, and when he did, it was typically so they could do something very special. So why is it important to us that on Pentecost that year, God filled the disciples with the Holy Spirit? Because that's when God made the Holy Spirit available to each and every one of us for the remainder of time. And you're probably wondering, okay, that's great, the Holy Spirit, we all have access to the Holy Spirit. How do I get that? What does that mean? Well, that's a great question, and you know what? I'm going to answer that question in this week's video blog, which will be out later this week, where we're going to talk a little bit more about the Holy Spirit and what that means for you. But now you know that Pentecost was the day where God opened the door to the Holy Spirit for all of us. It's really important. Be sure to tune into the video blog later this week. All right, it's a wrap. Friends and neighbors, as always, may the Lord of peace himself give you peace at all time and every way. The Lord be with all of you. Stay strong, keep the faith. God bless you and yours, and come on back and see me again next Monday. Take care.